It's very good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Tell us where we are, because I know where we are, because I've been here a lot. In fact, I watched this building as it was being constructed here in the Dallas Arts District. But you chose the location for today's shoot, and I want you to explain where we are and why we're here.
Okay, so different from you, this is my first time here. And I'm amazed by where I am. We're at Crown Museum of Asian Art. We're here because I'm trying to promote my Asian art, and I'm thinking about, with all my nice highlights, where shall I display them? And I feel this is the perfect venue for us to do this.
Well, we often say our work is museum quality. Today, we're going to prove that to be the case.
I guess so.
We're actually in the Jade Room here at the Crown Museum of Asian Art, here on Flora Street, across the street from the National Sculpture Center, next to the Meyerson Symphony Center, here in the heart of Dallas's design district. So it's an appropriate venue for us today, correct?
Right, and as you can see, we're surrounded by masterpieces of jade works, and most of them are from Imperial. So I guess we will start talking about one Imperial jade piece from our sale as well.
So tell folks when the sale is.
The sale will be September the 22nd in Dallas, but we will have highlight preview in New York the week before the sale.
And I want to make one thing real clear. You said before we started that you're not super comfortable because this is not something you do very often.
No.
And obviously, as you said before, English is your second language, and much of what you do, you actually transcribe from the Chinese.
Right, because when I learn my art history, I learn them in Chinese. So when I'm talking about them, I need to think about it and translate it into English.
So I want you to know, for the purposes of this video, feel free to do that. If it's easier for you to explain something in Chinese first and then explain it to the dumb American, what we're talking about, feel free to do that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Because I assume that many of the folks who are watching this actually probably speak Chinese.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's true.
So we'll subtitle it, we'll do hand signals, we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure that there are folks who don't know what you're talking about. But again, as the dumb Texan in the room, feel free to do whatever you need to do to best explain what we're about to discuss. And there are several pieces you actually brought with us here in the museum, some of which they may want to keep. So what's the first thing that you're holding?
Okay, I want to show you this piece. It is an Imperial YJ piece carved as double gourd form. Double gourd is very auspicious for Chinese people.
Why is that?
Because it's basically phonetically close to prosperity and happiness, good fortune.
We could use all that we can get right now.
So the Chinese for double gourd is 葫芦, and prosperity and good fortune is 福禄. I know it probably sounds the same to you.
No, there's an extra F.
Might be. But that's why traditionally people use double gourd in jade work a lot. So it is a common motif and subject. Yeah. And from here, you can see the carving is very delicate. And it's carved with a model called Liu Hai. Liu Hai is known as taking a 3-leg toad, and that toad only eats and it never poop.
First time the word poop has been used on one of these videos.
I'd
like to say congratulations. First of all, good job. And who says English isn't your first language?
Thank you. And so basically that's a metaphor of you're earning in the money, taking in the money, but you never let the money out.
Oh, like my grandfather.
Okay, so that means this is a picture of wish you a good fortune and making a lot of money.
Very nice. It's beautiful. From when does that date?
I would say it's probably around 18th century from the technique of carving and the delicacy of the carving. So basically, with these complicated image, it's usually from 18th century, and from the delicacy of the carving, it's probably Imperial. And also, when you look at the piece, you probably not compared to the piece in the jade room here, but this is a pretty big YJ plaque you can find out there. Usually, I would say almost always, this size of white jade is reserved for Imperial workshop instead of like rich merchants or literatis.
So for whom would this have been made?
I would just say it's made from the Imperial workshop, but I don't really know who is it made for. Yeah, so it's probably a display piece in somewhere in the palace.
See, I think that's one of the most amazing parts of your job, is that you, unlike many of the folks in Heritage, we have 40 some odd categories. They're comic books, they're coins, they're baseball bats, sort of used in everyday life. The idea that you're one of the few who get to work with something that might have actually been in a palace.
That's true.
I think that's kind of extraordinary.
Thanks. Yeah, it's also
very low key of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it makes me excited all the time, and but yeah, that's part of the reason why I choose my job. Yeah.
Really?
It is.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
While we talked about the front side of the jade, I want to show you the back side of the jade as well. What you can see here.
Mm-hmm. What do I see?
Can you tell what this is like here?
Well, it looks like a flower. I'm sure it's not.
No, it's a small double gourd.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the double gourd.
I'm not very smart. You haven't figured that out by now. I'm just.
No, I know you're smart. So carved on this big double gourd plaque, there is like the branch of double gourd and with all the leaves. And this actually is a metaphor facility of the family. So basically you can have a lot of sons and daughters. You can have a lot of kids. And of course it is very auspicious for Chinese. So as you can see, the craftsman of this jade piece was trying to materialize the abstract form like into very, very detailed pictures. And that's famous for 18th century Imperial craftsmen.
So we don't know who made this, correct?
We don't. Interestingly, not a lot of craftsmen will leave their name on the jade work, except for one person, and that one person becomes basically the top in the market for jade works.
So why is it that they would not leave their names? Was it by order, decree, or was it just by choice?
Well, so basically what I'm saying while I'm introducing the piece to you, I keep mentioning craftsmen instead of artists, because back then, of course, now we think it is a like perfect artwork, but back then craftsman is different from artists. Artists, you're supposed to leave your name on your artwork, but if you're a craftsman, you're not supposed to leave your name down.
So it was no different than making a chair, no different than making something to be used.
Right, exactly.
Fascinating. That's a beautiful piece. Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you.
Through the magic of editing, you have something different in your hand now.
Yes, this is the second piece I'm going to show you. It is pretty small.
But I bet it has an enormous story to tell.
Yes, it is important. It is important not just because it's rare, also it's important for its status in the Buddhist art history. So this is a Buddha Maitreya, and it is date back to the Pala Empire in northern India. So Pala Empire is actually the last Buddhist dynasty, the last Buddhist empire in northern India, and it's also the last significant period of Buddhist art creation in India.
From what year would this date?
I can only date back to around 12th century. I can't tell you which year it was.
So you're holding something in your hand that's about 900 years old.
Yes.
Fair enough. I'd like to stay very far away from it.
You sure you don't want to try?
I'm positive I don't want to hold it.
Okay, but you probably want to look close.
I do.
Like, can you see here? It's inlaid.
I can.
Yeah, it's inlaid with silver to the eyes.
That's a
and
stunning piece.
to the forehead. Yeah. So when we look at the piece, so the first thing we know it is from Pala period because of the inlaid and because of the flashy like waistline and the tall chignon, and also the strong arm. It is basically the characteristic of the Pala period statue. So basically why Pala period was super important is, like I said, it's like the lost glory of Buddhist art in India. And also it is during the Pala period that India become the, like it's the last period of India become the center of Buddhist learning and later esotericism. So after that, northern India was conquered by Muslim in later 12th century. And the very famous, I'm gonna mention to you because in Pala period, I'll say not they founded, but the monastery called, let me see, what's the English word? See, we have that.
You don't have to use the English word. Feel free.
Well, it's Nalanda. It's the Nalanda monastery. It becomes like I said, the center of Buddhist learning, and basically it's also considered as one of the earliest universities in the world. And later, people learning from that place, they take Buddhism to Tibetan, to China, to the Far East. And they also take the Pala style to the areas we just mentioned. So that's why I said it is important for the Buddhism history and also Buddhist art history.
So for whom would this have been made?
Okay, it's another question. We don't know. It's pretty rare to, people find 2 temples with these statues in India. But this piece, according to the collector, it's from Xinjiang area, which is the west of China, really close to northern India from that area. So it's far away from the origin. We don't know who it's made for. It's probably made for a temple, but at this point, we don't really know. Because at that time, the Buddhism is really popular in northern India, and later in Nepalese and Tibet, people will worship these at their home. So I may say it has different owners, and at this point we don't know like what it's been through and where at first who it's made for.
So given its age, given its backstory, tell me who collects these now and what is the estimate on this?
The estimate on this one, I put it rather conservative at 10,000 to 20,000, but I think the hammer will be higher than that. So the collectors now, well, the thing is, Buddhism is not very popular in India today, but it's still popular in China, in Japan.
And in the United States.
Yes, definitely. So actually, Himalayan art or Indian Buddhist art is a few categories, like I would say maybe only 1 or 2 categories that's in the Asian art still collected by Westerners. So the clients here in the United States, they are still interested buying nice pieces like this.
Well, that's a beautiful piece.
Yeah, like when I mentioned it is Buddha Maitreya, actually I want to have you to look at the piece. Well, when you look at the piece, you probably think it is a female deity.
Sure.
Okay.
I never ascribed gender to a Buddha.
Okay, so...
is that weird of me?
Well...
I've just always sort of, to me, a god is...
It's actually not rare, because even when I say it looks like a female deity, it doesn't mean it is a female deity. So why I'm mentioning this is this Maitreya, it's usually in Buddha form instead of Bodhisattva form, but this one is in Bodhisattva form. So I want to explain a little bit to the audience and probably to you too.
Very much to me.
Okay. So Maitreya is the future Buddha, and it's usually in Buddha form. And how we know this is Maitreya is from, you can see there's a water pot to the left side, and there's a pagoda to the crown. And and how we know it's in Bodhisattva form is because he wears a jeweled princely garment, which is different from the monk robe. And that's to point out his earthy importance compared to Buddha, usually wearing in the monkly robe. Yeah.
That much I do know.
Oh, surprise, impressed.
I don't need that.
So yeah, this is about this piece. Let me know if do you have any questions? I would like you to ask questions.
No, I feel like I've asked all the questions I have, but I appreciate the offer.
Okay.
We have other pieces, so I don't want to.
Okay, let's continue to the next piece there.
All right.
So the next we will talk about some photos. You probably think why photos in Asian art department, but they're showing Asian art. And
I would also not mind holding those if you need me to. So.
Sure.
Just so you know.
Yeah, you can.
Unlike a 900.
You can hold. I'll let you hold this one.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So basically, we are talking about these photos because they are from I'll say, the most important name for Chinese art at the West. So this is from a previously C.T. Lu collection, and then heralded by Frank Carroll. C.T. Lu is a name that's like, basically we cannot not talk about when we talking about Chinese art at West. But this is also I'll say, the most controversial name when we talk about Asian art, especially the collecting and the connoisseurship during the early 20th century.
You told me a little bit of the story a few weeks ago in the office. It's a fascinating story. I can't wait for you to share with everybody else.
Sure. So basically, C.T. Lu was born from a peasant family and then later become the butler. I remember that word. Become the butler of the most...
What is it in Chinese?
男仆.
There you go.
Okay. Become the butler.
I'd like to learn, I'm
Sure. Are you going to try to pronounce it?
Not at all.
Okay.
You can't, not on camera.
Okay, so after that, let's try. Where am I? Okay, he's the Nanpu. Okay, so he's the butler of this richest Chinese man back in the late 19th, early 20th century. And he went to Paris with this guy. When that guy became the commercial counselor in France for the Qing government, and spent during his time there in Paris, he he's maybe super smart and talented. He learned English, French, and become a Chinese art expert by helping Mr. Zhang with Mr. Zhang's antique business. Then after Mr. Zhang decided to go back to China to supporting the founding of Republic of China, C.T. Lu instead decided to stay in Paris to start his own antique business. And because of his relationship with this richest man, also very powerful, he's basically one of the founders of the Republic of China later. His political connection basically allowed him to buy out Chinese customs to smuggle all the most important Chinese national treasure outside of China and to sell them, or maybe he was trying to take them out of China for these most important private and public collections all over the world. So these are the pictures. I think basically the inventory pictures you can also find there are notes. Some of them has C.T. Lu seals to the back. And we put like around 30 pictures in one lot, and we have 5 lots of these.
So what are we looking at specifically? So talk about some of these pieces and what they meant.
So basically, everybody know C.T. Lu had the best Chinese art, and you probably can find the Chinese artwork he donated to or purchased from him from all the major museums in the West. Basically, you name it: Guimet in Paris, British Museum in London, and Met in New York. So they all purchased from him or like take his donation at some point. And
do you think there's any here?
I'm not sure. We probably need to check whether there's C.T. Lu. Last month I was at Minneapolis Museum of Art, and when I walk into their Buddhist art area, I just see it's from C.T. Lu. So definitely from a lot of major museums, you can find pieces from him.
Right.
Yeah, and so these photos, probably the pieces, this is a very important pieces. Basically, he has all the national treasures. So these pieces probably in the public museums, probably still in important private collections, but will be a great archive. University will look for, and libraries will look for, and the researchers on C.T. Lu, they probably want to buy it too.
And we're offering them all together for that purpose, correct? As an archive?
Yes. But also like dealers, they probably want it as well to just, again, as archive. But also owning one piece from C.T. Lu basically is a ultimate goal for a lot of Chinese dealers. So whenever a piece with C.T. Lu label on it, the price will go up a lot than usual, just because his name basically is the proof of the taste and the quality of the piece.
You know, when you say smuggle, it certainly has a connotation that these pieces should not have left.
Yes, I would say that's why when I say controversial, is because of the West think he's a promoter of Chinese art to the West. But in China, still a lot of people today, even today, will think he's a traitor.
Well, that was my next question. I mean, so these pieces that went into private collections, I assume there is a desire, if not a movement, to have them brought back to the public consumption.
Wow. I don't know about other countries, but what China is doing is they buy it back. Mm-hmm. So whenever it shows up in the market, either the government, the museum, or even private collectors, they will buy to bring it back to China.
Fascinating. Is there a book on C.T. Lu?
There's one book. I think it's wrote in French because he spent most of his time in Paris, and there's a building he built in this. The neighborhood is very French, but he built a Chinese building. We don't know how he made it, but he's a legend anyway. He just made it happen to have his own Chinese style building in that Western neighborhood. And that was famous as, we call it Red Building. He just has his whole antique store there. I think it's 5 floors.
But what do you think of him? What is your take on C.T. Lu?
I have a very complicated feeling about him. So, because some of the pieces, they are very big to take out of China, so he decided to break them into half or break them into 4 to take out, then to glue back. But basically, he just destroyed the piece, right, in my mind. But also,
he destroyed in order to smuggle. That right there just seems like that's not something you want on your business card.
Right, but when you go to the major museums, and especially when China went through that Cultural Revolution thing, so when you go to the public museum and see the wonderful pieces, you might wonder, if they stay in China during the Cultural Revolution, what will happen to them. But also, he was the mentor of a lot of Chinese important collectors. He basically give them the knowledge and give them the interest to start collecting Chinese art. So it's really complicated, I would say. I guess the current Chinese government definitely don't have that complicated feeling. They took away, so the new government, the new communist government took away his lost shipment. He was trying to ship millions of dollars national treasure out of China in 1948, and the new government, the new customs, they just stopped it and retained the whole shipment. And that actually became the founding part of the permanent collection of Shanghai Museum.
Fascinating. Well, thanks. So we'll go from something very complicated to something a little less so, right? It's a bowl, but obviously it has a wonderful story to tell.
So for this bowl, instead of the story, I want to talk about the piece itself. Okay. So about the painting on it.
I love these. You and I've done these before where you just go
right, the continuous paintings, yes. So I probably mentioned to you before, it's not until late Ming Dynasty, early Qing Dynasty, they start putting stories on porcelain, blue and white, especially blue and white porcelain pieces. And later Imperial pieces is more about those motifs, patterns, like I just showed you the double gourd ones, and they put like all auspicious motif on the bowl, or it's not a lot of stories on the bowl. But this one is still, I would say it's from early or mid Qing Dynasty. They still do like the architecture, the buildings, and you can see figurines in the painting. And you can see it's still not, it's like a literati painting instead of just pictures, just motifs, right, just symbols. Yeah. So, and I think the painting technique, when we compare to the later Ming Dynasty or very early Qing Dynasty, they are roughly painted. But at the mid Qing Dynasty, the painting is already very delicate, but they are still it is still a narrative piece, and they are still telling story. That's why I think this piece is very special. And I also want to mention the mark to the bottom, so I can read it for you. It is 大明宣德年制, says it is a Ming Dynasty bowl, which it is not. It is a mid-Qing Dynasty bowl.
So why would that be written there?
So especially early to mid-Qing Dynasty, they have that trend to mimic things from way before, or try to, for black and white porcelain pieces, they are trying to mimic mid to late Ming Dynasty styles, like Shunde style, because they think at that period, the blue and white pieces reaches a peak. So they are trying to copy it. That's why they are doing this. This is totally not Shunde style, but they still put Shunde mark on it.
So how old is that?
This is an 18th century piece.
I have bowls in my house that I bought 2 weeks ago that don't look as good as that.
Okay, we'll check on those. You never know.
I'm amazed that these survived this long. I'm just stunned that something like this can be this old and be this beautiful.
Right, especially like they are so fragile. Right. Yeah.
So how does this survive? To whom did this belong originally?
So originally, like I said, I think it is an imperial piece. It's from the palace, and later probably go to, let's say, the rich merchants. Basically, at the end of the Qing Dynasty, the operation and management in the palace really a mess. So the workers work for the palace. They just take pieces out to sell to the antique dealers or rich merchants. So that might be one of the reasons there are quite a lot imperial porcelain pieces outside of palace. But also okay, I don't know whether this is another awkward topic to talk about. So there, we're at the late period of Qing dynasty. There's looting from the army from 8 countries. They get into the summer palace and did I won't say a complete looting, but like they burn away the stuff they cannot take with them.
Right.
Yeah, and this is also why a lot of like imperial pieces, amazing pieces, they're like every now and then they show up in the market.
Complicated.
Complicated, yes.
So obviously we're not discussing the piece, we're not holding the piece we're about to discuss because it fills basically the length of this room.
Right.
Floor to ceiling.
Probably more than that, yeah.
It's an enormous painting.
Right.
But it's a beautiful piece and it obviously has a fascinating backstory.
Right, actually it came in as 2 pictures. So it's from the same collection. It's from the Stanley family collection. And the collection starts from, okay, I'll try it. Rear Admiral Emery Day Stanley.
Very nice. Very well done.
Thanks. So he serviced for U.S. Pacific Fleet during 1930s. At that time, that was the important time prior to and during the Japanese invasion of China. He made multiple trips to Japan and China. Then he started like purchasing antiques. And this is how he started the family collection. Then his kids and grandkids just continued to adding the Asian art pieces into their family collection. Basically, the whole family, they have a really long history of the service for U.S. Navy.
But was he interested in it for the art, for the quality, or was he a collector? Did he see it in value? Was he collecting souvenirs during his?
I think maybe it's more on the souvenir side,
Really?
And also people buy it because they think it's pretty. They buy it as a decorative
Right.
piece instead of they know it is antiques. Chase back to its like literary meaning or lecture meaning behind the piece.
So we think that he was basically just a souvenir collector for whom the family actually sort of took it on as a real life's work.
Right, and it continues until 1960s when the grandkids basically they retired from the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what is the painting of?
So the story about the painting is the grandson, like he's really, as you probably the same as you, he's really curious about what this painting is and who painted it, what period it was painted. So he sent slides. He consulted the National Museum, the National Palace Museum in Taipei. And the director of the museum at that time actually wrote back in 1969 telling him this painting of scholars, literates, they were looking at a painting. So basically there's a painting inside of the painting.
Right, it's very meta.
Yeah, so that's why I want to show you that piece.
Yes.
Another piece is also scholars gathering in landscapes, but I think this one is more interesting. Yeah, it's about that painting. Then the director wrote back telling him this painting is attributing to this famous Chinese Ming dynasty politician, Chen Yu. So let me give you a little bit background of this person. So he was the private advisor of the founding emperor of Ming dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang, during the days when he's still a rebel to the Mughal Empire in southern China. Then after Zhu Yuanzhang founded the Ming dynasty, and Chen Yu stayed as his private advisor, but reject all the titles the emperor tried to give him. So until the day of his death, he doesn't have any official title, no matter like how high prestigious like the position the emperor tried to give him. So he's pretty legendary. He's like so close to the emperor, but he has no official titles at all. And I don't see a lot of paintings by this artist left, or we won't call him artist, but as a literati back then.
Why would we call him an artist?
Because he doesn't make a living for that. But
that doesn't diminish him as an artist.
Well,
what is he, a hobbyist?
Well,
A
back then, all the, if you call yourself a literati, or you call yourself like, you regard yourself as a scholar, you will have to good at painting, and you will have to good at calligraphy. So that's the basic of being a literati.
Okay. Because clearly it's art, clearly it's beautiful, clearly it's extraordinarily done with great craftsmanship and care. It's just, I don't think of him as an artist.
Well, you can call him an artist.
But I would be wrong.
Well, you won't be wrong, but he's more a politician. He's more famous for being a politician than being an artist.
Sure. So when that work, and I'm fascinated because obviously that work comes from the Admiral's collection and was bought for a particular reason. So who collects that now?
You mean the Chinese classic paintings? So Chinese classic painting now become a pretty niche category because you will have to understand the literature behind it. You will have to at least be able to read Chinese to be able to appreciate the classic paintings. So I think it's more of Chinese collectors, they are now buying the classic Chinese paintings. But the most expensive ever classic Chinese paintings in the world was collected by an American collector.
Really?
Back in the 80s. I think he bought the painting in the 80s, and now it's the most expensive.
Out of affection, out of understanding, out of appreciation, or just because Americans like to spend a lot of money to buy things and own things that other people cannot?
Well, for that piece particularly, that is very, when you look at the piece, you won't think it is a Chinese classic painting. You will think it is a abstract or contemporary piece. So I guess you have to like resonate with the piece, then you will buy it.
Right. Does this resonate with you?
Yes.
How so?
So basically, most of the literatis back in the Ming and Qing dynasty are from my hometown. So I would say I was born to relate it like to all the classic paintings. And so when I see classic paintings, especially from my hometown area, I feel a connection.
Sure. Well, I think that's incredibly special to know. Well, look, I appreciate you doing this. The sale is, remind folks again,
September the 22nd.
22nd, that's right. September 22nd. Why don't you say it again so I don't get it wrong?
Okay. The sale will be September the 22nd.
Excellent. And it's going to be in Dallas, but there will be a preview in New York.
Right.
And if folks have questions, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So either send an email to us or just call us directly.
And what is your email address?
It is clementinec@ha.com.
Excellent.
I know it's long. I would just explain to Tommy how hard it is for me to explain my email to people.
Clementine C is pretty easy at ha.com.
But not when you try to spell it on the phone for people.
Well, look, I always learn so much when you and I have conversations about this. It's a thrill to look at these 100-year-old pieces, especially to be able to do it here in the Crow Museum of Asian Art here in the Dallas Design District. We thank them for letting us shoot here today. If you're in Dallas, if you're traveling through or live here as I have my entire life, please come by here and see this place. It is a magical place, perhaps filled with some of the pieces that are similar to those we discussed today. So thanks.
Thank you. And I want to mention the permanent collection here is amazing. So basically, it contains Chinese art, Japanese art, Korean art, and Southeast Asian art, and have a lot of Buddhist art, and it's spanning from, let's say, Neolithic to contemporary. So a lot to see here.
We just won't auction any of it.
I wish.